Good morning, students. Yesterday we have learned about the formation of urine, how the urine is formed in the kidneys, and how it is stored in the urinary bladder, how it comes. It comes through the ureters and stores in the urinary bladder. Then afterwards it will be thrown out through the urethra. So this is the urine, and the urine formation we have learned. The urine is formed in three phases. There are three phases in the formation of the urine. The first one is glomerular filtration. Second one is selective reabsorption. Third one is the tubular secretion. So all these processes we have learned. The glomerular secretion, filtration, where it takes place, how it takes place. Then selective reabsorption. Selective materials are reabsorbed. Then tubular secretion. The excess of the materials which from the tubules are secreted back. So tubular secretion is the third one. Now today we are going to study about the composition of the urine. What is the composition of urine? Urine is made up of which materials? How the urine is produced in the kidney we have learned. But what is urine? What is the composition? What are the main substances present in the urine? The urine composition we have to learn today. Urine is a clear, sterile, and aqueous solution and umber in color. Umber means brownish. Umber in color. Urine is a clear, sterile, aqueous solution. It is an aqueous solution which is clear in its appearance, and the color is umber in color. It is umber colored solution due to the presence of pigmented substance called urobilin. So its color is umber or brownish due to the presence of urobilin. Urobilin material is present in the urine, and it gives the umber color to that solution, that is the urine. Urobilin is generated by hemolysis of erythrocytes. So the hemolysis of erythrocytes takes place in the liver and in the spleen, and this results in the formation of urobilin. Then this is brought to the kidney for excretion. So this waste is brought to the kidney for the excretion. The urobilinogen present in the blood stream of the kidney is converted into urobilin and excreted out in urine. So in the blood flow, it is in the form of urobilinogen. Urobilinogen. So this is converted back into the urobilin in the kidney, and thus then it is excreted out in the urine. Now coming to the next point, the specific gravity of the urine is in between 1020 to 1030. 1020 to 1030 specific gravity. Then pH is alkaline. pH is around 6. pH is around 6 pH. A healthy adult passes about 1000 to 1500 ml urine per day. A healthy adult passes the urine quantity is 1000 to 1500 ml per day. The urine contains water 96%. So just 4% different materials are present in the urine, whereas 96% of the urine is mostly water only. the excess of water is thrown out in the form of urine. So urine contains 96% of the water. Then 2% of urea, that is nitrogenous waste. Urea is 2%. Then it also contains uric acid, creatine, ammonia, sodium, potassium, chlorides, phosphates, oxalates. All these constitute 2%. So 2% urea and 2% different materials which I have told you: uric acid, creatine, ammonia, sodium, potassium, phosphate, oxalate, then chlorides. All these materials or the substances present in 2%. Total 100%. 96 plus 2 plus 2, 100. Coming to the water balance in the blood, it is done by the formation of the urine and excretion of the urine. The water balance. The source of body water is by ingested food and fluids. The source is by ingested food and fluids which we take in. So the water comes from ingested food and the fluids which we take inside our body. That is the source for the body water. A small amount is produced by cellular metabolism also. In the cells, the metabolic activity takes place and there also water is produced, a little bit quantity. Water is excreted not only by kidneys but lungs and skin and digestive tract also play an important role in the excretion of the water. So the water is excreted not only by the kidneys but by the lungs during expiration, and the skin by sweat formation, and the digestive tract. So by all these parts or the organs, the water is excreted out. Too much of loss of water causes dehydration. The body is dehydrated when the maximum water is lost. Too much water is, if it is lost, then it causes dehydration. Then too much of retention of water causes edema. Edema is caused by the too much of retention of water in the body. During expiration of air from lungs, some quantity of water is also expelled out. So some quantity of water is also expelled out by the lungs during expiration. Water is expelled out by the skin in the form of sweat. So in the form of sweat, the water is also excreted out of our body through the skin. By the digestive system, water is excreted along with feces. Along with the feces or the waste material, the water is also expelled out or excreted out by the digestive tract or the digestive system. The balance between fluid intake and output is controlled by kidney. The balance between fluid intake and output, it is controlled by the kidneys. The minimum output of urine is about 500 ml per day. 500 ml per day. The excess of urine volume is controlled by antidiuretic hormone ADH. The excess of urine volume is controlled by antidiuretic hormone, that is ADH. The ADH is released in the blood stream by posterior pituitary gland. The posterior pituitary gland produces the ADH hormone which controls the volume of the urine. When the osmotic pressure is raised, That is, when the blood is becoming more concentrated due to loss of more water, then the sensory nerve cells called osmoreceptors of the hypothalamus gland stimulate the posterior pituitary gland to release ADH. As a result, the selective reabsorption process is also increased and more water is reabsorbed from the distal convoluted tubule, that is DCT, and the collecting tubules, and thus reducing in the blood osmotic pressure. So here I will explain once again. When the osmotic pressure is raised in the blood, which stimulates the sensory nerve cells called osmoreceptors of hypothalamus gland, and this again stimulates the posterior pituitary gland to release ADH, that is antidiuretic hormone. As a result, the selective reabsorption process in the distal convoluted tubule and in the collecting tubule is raised. Collecting tubule, and thus reducing in blood osmotic pressure. The blood osmotic pressure is again reduced. The negative feedback, that is opposite situation, maintains the osmotic pressure and sodium and water concentration within the normal limit. Water or fluids are necessary for following reasons. The fluid and the water are necessary for the body for the following reasons. Number 1, for tissues, for blood and for lymph, it forms 2/3 of body weight. It is very necessary for the tissues, blood and the lymph, and it is 2/3 of the body weight. Now coming second point, second one, the reason why it is necessary, for what it is necessary is for making of digestive enzymes and lubricating fluids, that is the mucus, for the formation of the digestive enzymes and mucus also, as a solvent for waste products, example urine. It is necessary for the solvent for the waste products like urine. Fourth one, for the production of sweat to cool the body by evaporation, for the formation of the sweat or the production of the sweat in the skin. Next one, hence we need to drink about 3 to 4 liters of water every day to supply the above needs. For many needs it is necessary, hence about 3 to 4 liters of water we have to drink every day. Electrolyte balance. Changes in the concentration of electrolytes in the body fluid is due to the change in body water content and electrolyte level. Changes in the concentration of electrolyte in the body fluid, it is due to the change in body water content and electrolyte levels. Several metabolism maintain the balance between water and electrolyte concentration. The metabolic activities, they maintain the water and the electrolyte concentration. Sodium, for example, sodium, that is Na, is the most common cation, that is positively charged ion, in extracellular fluid. The extracellular fluid of the body contains the sodium ions, that is positively charged ions. Then second one, potassium ions, Ka, is the most common cation, that is positively charged again in the intracellular fluid, not in the extracellular, intracellular fluid. Sodium comes from almost all foods and common salt. Sodium comes from almost all food, and common salt often added to food while cooking. So while cooking in every house, you know that salt is added for the food. Without salt, we won't eat anything. ಸೊ ಆಹಾರಕ್ಕೆ ರುಚಿ ಕೊಡುವಂಥದ್ದೇನು ಉಪ್ಪು. ಉಪ್ಪು ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ನಾವು ಊಟ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಸೋಡಿಯಂ comes from food and the common salt which is added to the food while cooking. This means sodium intake is more, and this is excreted by urine and sweat. This means that the food and the salt we use gives more sodium ions, and this sodium is thrown out by or excreted out by urine and sweat of the skin. The renin angiotensin aldosterone mechanism. There is a mechanism called renin angiotensin aldosterone mechanism maintains the concentration of sodium and potassium in our body. There is a special mechanism called renin angiotensin aldosterone mechanism which maintains the potassium and sodium concentration in our body or in our blood. Sodium and potassium occur in high concentration in digestive enzymes. Sodium in gastric juice and calcium in pancreatic and intestinal juices. So the sodium and potassium, they occur in higher concentration in the digestive enzymes, that is sodium in gastric juice and calcium in pancreatic and intestinal juices. Normally these ions are reabsorbed by colon of the digestive tract. They are reabsorbed by the colon. In regulation of sodium level in the blood, ANP, atrial natriuretic peptide hormone, ANP, atrial natriuretic peptide hormone, plays an important role in the regulation of sodium level in our blood. How it works? Cells in the afferent arterioles of the nephron, the cells which are present in the afferent arterioles of the nephron, release the enzyme renin when the blood pressure and the blood volume comes down. When the blood pressure and the blood volume comes down, this renin is released, hormone is released. This renin converts plasma protein angiotensin to angiotensin 1. The PCT cells convert angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, which increases the blood pressure. Renin and blood pressure. Renin and raised calcium level stimulate adrenal cortex to produce aldosterone, which in turn stimulates water and sodium reabsorption, and they increase blood volume. When sodium reabsorption is increased, calcium excretion is increased, reducing intracellular potassium. Thus, level is maintained. When the blood volume is increased, ANP hormone is released by atrial cardiac muscles. There are auricle cardiac muscles cells which travel in the blood stream and reaches the kidney, where it reduces reabsorption of sodium and water. Hence, more volume of sodium and water are excreted. Raised ANP secretion also inhibits the secretion of ADH and aldosterone. Regulation of calcium level is maintained by secretion of the normal blood pH, the secretion of ADH. The normal blood pressure pH, that is acid base balance, the pH of the normal blood is maintained by proximal convoluted tubules PCT by tubular secretion of hydrogen ions into the filtrate. Thus it is maintained. The normal blood pH is maintained by the tubular secretion, that is a PCT secretion, tubular secretion of the hydrogen ions. So the hydrogen ions are reabsorbed and thus the blood pH is maintained. So this is about the constituents of the urine electrolytes, electrolyte balance, and how the electrolytes are produced in the urine and how they are maintained in the urine. Then water balance also we have learned, and also the composition of the urine. The composition of the urine, water balance and electrolyte balance we have learned today. So this completes the excretory system. In the excretory system we have learned the structure of excretory organ, that is kidney, structure of kidney, and the microscopic structure of the kidney, that is the histology of kidney also we have learned. Then the nephron, which is present in the kidney, the structure of the nephron, which is nothing but the functional unit, structural and functional unit of the kidney. Then afterwards the nephron, the glomerulus, all the parts of the nephron we have studied. Then coming to the renal post-portal system also we have learned. Then urine formation by 3 processes we have learned. Then afterwards today we have learned about the composition of the urine, the water balance of the water balance in the blood, and electrolyte balance also we have learned today. So this completes the excretory system. Tomorrow onwards we will start the new chapter. Thank you very much.